and welcome to this episode of Fuel Talk from Cox Automotive Europe. Fuel Talk, for those of you that haven't joined us before, is a straight talking podcast series, which on a bi-weekly basis shares valuable context around Cox Automotive Europe, its latest news, insight and experience. So I'm James Davis, and for this episode, I'm delighted to be chatting about RMS Automotive and Manheim Express. And I'm joined by Sebastian Fuchs, who is Managing Director of both Manheim Express and RMS Automotive. So welcome back, Sebastian.
Hey, James, great to be back. It's been a while since we last talked, and I remember our very engaging conversation there. So looking forward to today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you talked about very engaging, and I have to say you get a gold medal because the last time we spoke was on artificial intelligence and AI in the automotive sector, which I've certainly found very interesting, and certainly I think the listeners, everyone that joined us on Fuel Talk would agree. So it's our most listened to episode. So no pressure. We've got to set that up in the league in terms of what we're going to talk about today. But in terms of that, we'll get straight on with it because there is a lot to catch up with and talk about, which is great. And as I said at the beginning there, that we're going to talk about two really important brands and businesses that we have within Cox Automotive Europe, and I guess let's start with RMS Automotive. They're integral to our proposition, clearly, and your role as leader of those propositions. So could you give us an overview, Sebastian, of RMS Automotive and what that really means to us and our customers in terms of who those customers are and what that looks like across Europe?
Absolutely, James. So yeah, RMS is obviously the software that we have sold across Europe to some of our major customers, and Stellantis as a group uses the software. Volvo uses it not only in Europe, they use it across actually the world. But there are a couple of other customers such as Jaguar Land Rover that are now starting to come on, and we are in conversations with multiple other clients in Europe. And what is it that makes it actually so interesting for the customers here is the fact that in continental Europe over the last few years, or in the recent years, there was much lesser of a structured auction business than in the UK, and that has driven that need for companies to kind of run their own remarketing setups, and that is what RMS really addresses for our clients. That's where we are strong. The beauty of RMS, and this is quite an interesting moment in time, as we have recently with the enterprise setup hired a product manager that's now responsible for both RMS and Manheim Express, which are technology-wise on the same platform, right? So there are times when we have a bit of an overlay and a bit of a confusion because RMS is a technology platform, and then there's RMS, the product that we sell. And we're just in the midst of working through this with our new product manager. And he's now identified clearly how this could be best driven going forward, and how we can actually turn this now into a more engaging proposition that then fulfills our claim of it's us driving how the world buys, sells, owns cars, right? And with that said, RMS really is three major pieces of software, if you want. So there is what we call a seller portal. So that is basically where our vendor clients, Stellantis, Volvo, JLR, but also D'Ieteren in Belgium, they go in and they manage their auctions, they manage the cars that come into the system, they price them, they integrate with logistics companies, and so on and so on. Then there is the buyer portal, and that's basically where their dealers are going online and buying the cars, right? That's your auction portal. And then there's a third one, which is really born with Manheim Express, which is the self-inspection app, which also actually has the whole capability of RMS in the app. So you can actually use the whole thing as an app, which is great and a good next advancement. And then there is the underlying foundation, which then plays back into the Power BI that we also offer to our customers, but not as a sellable product right now. It's a byproduct, basically, the data that we generate. And that's one of the key strengths, that basically our customers get the possibility, as the system tags every step along the value chain, it can report on every one of these. So if you want to think about lead times of the remarketing process, our customers have the ability to drive and do their reportings and control their suppliers, but also look at their pricing, look at their success over the last few months, and actually get all that data, get their hands onto that data. And that's really where it makes the huge difference for our customers, that they basically are in control of what they're doing.
Right. No, very good. And I think you touched on it earlier in terms of the auction footprint that we have in Europe is fundamentally different to the one we have in the UK, and that's around physical premises, I guess, and auction centres as such. But it might surprise some tuning into Fuel Talk that we've almost empowered our vendors to cut out, if you like, a Manheim physical auction process. But to your point, it sounds like the European market's far much more down that digital journey, isn't it, and that digital roadmap?
It absolutely is. I mean, if you look at the continental European market over the last few years, there has been a surge of these kind of selling themselves. The big volume vendors such as LeasePlan, ALD, Arval, the traditional lease companies that were holding big fleets, but also some of the rental car companies, Hertz, Europcar. And I worked for Europcar back at the time. They developed their own systems, right? And one of these systems actually supplied, the Europcar system supplied by Cox Automotive, right? So there was this trend for many years. Now, where RMS comes in and where RMS says like, hey, we can deliver this to you. We are agnostic as a supplier, so we connect with all your third parties, all your other vendors. It was a need, and so there was clearly a need that our customers raised, and in good Cox Automotive behavior, we fulfilled that need, right?
Yeah. Now
it's about harvesting this and basically making sure that we actually get the benefit out of it, James. And that's where we are now. That's perfectly the reason why we've launched Manheim Express back into the market, because these deals are all deals that are driven to give our customers a platform where they can manage their own sales. But what we've realized over time is that there's limitations in how active they can monitor and market. And that's where the strength of a Manheim Express organization comes in, building that buyer network and giving that wider reach across many markets. That's where we are now going down the road of really adding value and actually harvesting what we've built with RMS over the last years. If you think about with companies like Stellantis, Volvo, and Jaguar Land Rover together, the platform will, in those connected markets, probably by the end of 22, when we're back to normal market conditions, transacting in continental Europe and the UK, probably around 450,000 cars. And here comes the beauty of technology and the fact that we're on the same platform. We're enabling a co-listing functionality now for the clients that will then enable our customers on the RMS side in the future to send cars to Manheim Express by the click of a button.
Right.
And here comes the next interesting thing for them. We're telling them like, hey, you can co-list. You don't need to exclusively give us the stock. You can actually sell it to your own buyers, and at the same time, we can give you that benchmark. We can help you to sell for better prices because we can increase your reach. And that's where the strength of this setup that we're now building with RMS as the underlying foundation, technology platform on the one hand side for inventory owners and OEMs, and on the other side, our own marketplace that now enables us to go and add additional value and say, hey, now we want to get some transactional revenues from you, and helping you with the remarketing and basically helping with advertising and all that kind of stuff, but also in the future then owning our own data sets and making sure that we can actually help our customers in the future also with pricing optimization and these kind of things, which is something that right now we're struggling with it's a request that comes very often from our customers. Can you help us pricing? Can you help us optimize? Yeah. And while we as a company have all the intelligence, and we're doing it in the US, we're doing it in the UK. We weren't able to do this in the last few years because we hadn't the transactional data. And now with building up Manheim Express into the markets, we will be able to then go back to our RMS customers and actually say, hey guys, now we can actually offer you this extra value here. And that's how it really becomes together and how the offering becomes harmonized. And if you then think one step further and think about the Modix data, the customer data that we have there's another huge set of data that can come into our world that can then drive wholesale pricing based on retail demand. So there's a lot that actually the connected solutions can bring to the RMS customers going forward, and that's really where why there's still a lot to do in continental Europe. But that's also why we've gone down that road of building RMS and making it an integral part of our strategy in continental Europe.
Yeah, and as you say, many OEMs are looking at a certainly pan-European or global strategy as to scale that. And I think interestingly as well, from my perspective, my limited knowledge of the European market, not all of what you would consider a wholesale markets in terms of physical auction isn't culturally always accepted by every single country across the globe. Actually, it's not just about Europe, but it's certainly the commonality is the platform, as you say, to load the data of the vehicles. But I'm guessing from an OEM perspective, when that's then connected with Modix, there's a picture of, for example, website activity. So to actually get some consumer retail data. So to your point, that data gives the OEM vision of what consumers are searching for through the dealer network. They've got stock that they can then position to that dealer network. And is that cross-border as well, Sebastian?
That is definitely cross-border as well. That's a growing trend. I mean, before the pandemic, we all remember that those great days when we could go on vacations into the southern countries, and we'll hopefully be able later this year to do that again. I think Spain announced yesterday open borders for everybody that's vaccinated. So yes, logically there was always this overhang supply in terms of rental cars in the southern markets that then actually came in towards the end of the year into the northern European markets for the younger used cars. And then you have that flow from, I'd say, Central European markets plus Southern European markets into the Eastern European markets, where there was a segment of slightly older cars that was very attractive over there. So you had that natural, call it west to east flow, or southwest to east flow, and that's definitely still there, and it probably remains for the foreseeable future. But it changes regularly, and that transparency to be able to give our customers the possibility to look into different markets at the same time, or even on the platform offer cars like a lot of our customers do into the same into different markets at the same time at a different price. That's one of the key differentiators of the software of RMS. We think about, like, you've got one team sitting in Paris remarketing cars across 5 or 6 Central European markets. So that drives down the need for remarketing expertise in each and every market. So basically, it's really a digitalization effort and an empowerment of those OEMs going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about that digitalization, and I'd imagine, even if you look at, you talked about being agnostic in terms of not being allied to a Manheim, either in the UK, a physical site, or indeed we do have physical sites in Europe in limited countries, don't we? So potentially then, from that perspective, that's that shop window ability that the manufacturer has in terms of being able to put vehicles into shop windows. And if you think about the vehicle services, vehicle solutions business, which is again agnostic because it's supporting our customers, it's almost not being prescriptive to say it has to sell within our business of Manheim as a remarketing agent. We are facilitating to sell where it's optimum in their strategy to sell, which is is fascinating. So no, that's really great. So you talked about Manheim Express, which again is, I believe, celebrating its first anniversary, which is kind of ironic considering Manheim in the UK is celebrating its 100th this year. So it just shows how in the history, that 100 years, how we've evolved and how we continue to be very much creating new opportunities, new markets for our customers. But for anyone that hasn't heard about Manheim Express, could you just give us an overview of exactly what that does? Because it's slightly different in the UK to, for example, dealer auction. And I think it's important to tease out the differences, Sebastian.
Absolutely. I mean, to start with, Manheim Express is really aimed at the dealer-to-dealer market. But early on, we did realize we didn't want to just go one stream. So we've actually added volumes of bigger vendors as well, quite early now. As you said, as you point out, almost 1 year, and to be honest, I can almost not comprehend. It's already almost 1 year that we're live. I mean, we went live 15th of June a year ago, and as you say, this is really in the spirit of innovating and driving a new marketplace. That was always the thought train behind Manheim Express. When we build it out, we always said, it needs to be asset light. It needs to be digital first. It needs to entail artificial intelligence, and we talked about that last time quite a lot. And I'm really proud that from both actually RMS and Manheim Express, both software will actually, as of next month, be able to feature that AI-driven bot. And I can tell you that I've actually seen the first test last week on a town hall with the RMS team, and it's very impressive when you can actually key in your question in Mandarin, and the service team on the other side can pick it up in English, and then they answer in English, and it comes back out on the other side in Mandarin, which is
wow.
Exactly those kind of engaging solutions that enable us to work above and beyond that. But to come back to Manheim Express, that's one of the things where the software or the AI software will then help our dealers in the future to ask or to answer, these kind of common questions when we onboard. As you know, Manheim Express, it's a full self-service for a dealer. He can onboard himself. He can basically upload all the documentation that it needs, and then he can start really 24 hours later when we've approved it, he can start trading cars with the app in its hand on his forecourt. And it takes him, now that we're a year on, we know that a dealer that is trained, that uses the artificial intelligence for the damage recognition, it will take him 7 to 8 minutes to get the car identified, described with all the damages, uploaded, and put onto a sale. And then the sale is even at the dealer's will. So he can decide how long he wants to sell these cars. Obviously, we're now working with the teams to steer it a little bit as we're still in the growth phase, right? Now we have broken consistently now stock volumes of 300-400 cars per week. So there's now really good traction on the platform, and we're now onboarding more and more buyers on the other side. So it's a slow, steady progress. But as you can imagine, those first 12 months with all the lockdowns and everything, it's been difficult for our mature businesses at times. You can imagine it's been tenfold as difficult for a startup business that has to fight for market share, that has to fight for new clients every day. So the team has done actually a phenomenal job here to really engage with multiple customers and really won a couple of key accounts. So we have 6 sending us their cars. We've got a very renowned mobility supplier here out of the south of Germany with Mobility Concept. Both of them send us in excess of 100 cars every week. So we get actually in these times, when stock is really rare and good stock on top is really rare, we're actually having quite an interesting portfolio now. So it's been really a great journey that this, it's a team of just 15 people right now, core team. Now I always say core team because we have to never forget there is an RMS team that builds the technology. And that is where we actually are really trimming the business into the right direction, in my point of view, because the RMS team that builds out the solutions for our customers, such as Volvo and Stellantis, is the same team that builds out our solutions for our Manheim Express team. And this will long-term empower two things. One, we will always be connected with what our key customers and the industry does, because that will come in from the OEM side and the fleet owners. But at the same time, we have the power to build out our own ideas and our own product concepts, and that's where we can test those things then with the Manheim Express team, which is really a phenomenal combination of driving innovation into the market and being able to grow together. So that's there's an example here where we are now rebuilding our bidding engine, because with Manheim Express and the co-listing, we've realized that the bidding engine that we had in the past was a bit too vulnerable. And that's been now really being built out. But at the same time, our RMS team has realized that they need to increase the speed of delivering software to our customers, because as you can imagine, COVID has accelerated the focus on IT or digitalization, IT solutions, and delivery speed. So, when in the past it was okay to deliver something every month or every 2 months, which RMS was basically working to a 2 months release cycle, we're now changing this to have every 2 weeks smaller releases, and then every month one bigger release. So it's an extreme increase in capacity. And that only is possible because now the team is supported by the enterprise technology team. But also there is the other support functions such as HR and finance that are actually getting more streamlined and enabling, how the teams can work together. And that's where, also from a Manheim Express, and that's why I said like core team, 15 people, there is, finance, HR, technology, infrastructure, legal. There's so many support teams that actually make this happen. And it's just great and inspiring to see that with these teams, we're now able to give birth to a business like Manheim Express, and like that hold true to what is really the Cox Automotive or Manheim innovation spirit, but do it at a very cost-efficient way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the fundamental difference, listening to you talk there, where Manheim Express is a wholly owned Cox Automotive enterprise, as it were, a group business. Sounds like the fundamental difference in the UK then is Dealer Auction is a joint venture with Auto Trader, which has slightly predates your first anniversary, but certainly from that perspective unlocks similar advantages in terms of that retail connection with the retail marketplace, and two leading digital businesses, which in this case in the UK, to your point about being entrepreneurial in that time period, we've joined them together in the UK as that joint venture, but clearly within Europe the fundamentals remain the same, but we're in a position with RMS to unlock that potential with Manheim Express. It's and that AI is still in there, which is great to hear, Sebastian. But I guess listening to you talking about the challenges of customers and, for example, valuing vehicles, when you start talking about vehicles moving west to east across that multiple marketplace, that's clearly in my head, picking up a guidebook or logging onto a portal to try and get a value for a vehicle is very complex when there's different dynamics shifting across that marketplace.
Absolutely, there is, and maybe just to round up on your key differences to Dealer Auction. I mean, Dealer Auction definitely was the blueprint that we looked at, the old version, but obviously with the new solution, we couldn't use that, right? So that's why we went down to build it our own, and that's where I think there is it's a really good decision to build it on the RMS platform, because as you say, we have these part of that agnostic approach of RMS we can actually use now. So we are, for example, integrated with Modix. So any dealer in Germany that uses Modix could actually now launch stock into the RMS portal if he has an account with Manheim Express. So actually we can cross fertilize our own business. on the other side, we are next week releasing a connection with a German marketplace that is similar to Dealer Auction. To Auto Trader. It's not the German market leader, but it's a smaller player that has 4,000 dealers and about 300,000 cars on the platform. Now, surely not all the 300,000 cars will be relevant because they're retail stock, but among those cars, there's about good 5,000 cars that could actually be easily transferred into a wholesale marketplace. And by the fact that we are having this open-minded approach, we can now actually engage with 1, 2, 3, and more of these marketplaces, which really enables us to become a strong marketplace from a wholesale perspective. And that's really a key differentiator for us. Now, when you talk about the pricing, that is obviously from a European perspective, a much more complex topic. And that's why it's really important that we're trying to identify a partner where we can work with right now for continental Europe, but also build up our own intelligence as good as we can, because there is guides in every market. And there are some of these guides that are recognized across multiple markets, but there's not one that actually is fully acknowledged in every market. If you go to France, you'll speak with Largus. If you go to Germany, you already have Eurotax and DAT, you have 2. You go to Italy, you'll always be faced with Quattro as the preferred supplier. You go to Spain, you come across Eurotax, and there's a myriad of smaller, actually newer startups as well that are working in that space now, and that's where it really gets interesting, because obviously with Germany being the core market of Manheim Express right now, it's a market that, because of the locality of the German manufacturers, the consumers are very option driven. Right. So orders are very option based, right? Which is not often taken into account by some of the valuation houses. So there are multiple complexities that we need to look into, let alone, cross-country pricing. You've got the option side, and then you can talk about what does actually taxation do with it, right? And we're very proud with Manheim Express. We launched last month our first Belgian seller that is now exporting cars into Germany, and the team's been on a call with them this morning. We're looking this week to actually talk with our Modix Belgium team to engage with a couple of more dealers, so that we can actually onboard buyers and sellers from the Belgian side, which, in a nutshell, again, because we had the RMS platform already in Belgium, it was an easier job for the team to say, hey, we're going live in Belgium for this one dealer that wants to really work with us. And now, as we have Modix already there, we can actually, we're looking at a very asset-light and quick scaling of that business. And that's obviously our next frontier, James. Germany build out, we're now going to have Belgium, but then obviously sooner or later there's going to come the next big European market, and I'll keep the lid on who is it going to be, but that probably be part of our next conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sebastian, it sounds really exciting, and I think you touched on it earlier. The size and scale of Cox Automotive brings that capability of, as you said, scaling up solutions to customers. And talking of scaling up, it would be remiss not to touch on the acquisition of PK Now in Germany, which was announced, probably not even a month ago now, in May, which was really exciting. Obviously, that's something that you were involved in. So, in terms of that acquisition, can you give us a bit of background in terms of why Cox Automotive, selected that business and was, in a great position to be able to acquire it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when I have to go back a little bit in time here, James, and I don't want to start sounding like a fairy tale uncle, but when we did the planning for Manheim Express it's almost 3 years ago now, when we started with the first drawings, what could be costing and so on and so on. We built it out, and by the time we came to market, there was quite a competitor field already as well there, or coming out. Like when we launched last year, there wasn't a single month when there wasn't a competitor kind of offer probably also starting, and I had from very early on tried to get to know some of our competitors a little bit closer and spoke with some of them. And as such, PKW now was one that the team actually identified to be very similar to the Manheim Express offering. And already having been 5 years in the market, they had actually achieved a very, very good position. And they're, for example, partner of one of the biggest German dealer groups, actually the second biggest German dealer group, with Gottfried Schulz Group. And that dealer group was that they didn't have or they don't have exclusivity on it, but having that kind of footprint with dealers was exactly what we needed from Manheim Express. Now, as we talked about, the pandemic has given us a bit of a hard time over the last few weeks and months to win customers. And given the fact that we realized the competition had gone more fierce than we in the original plan had in our mind, there was all of a sudden 5 or 6 smaller competitors, and exactly what happens then. It's all about speed. It's all about being aggressive in the market, and being able to talk to as many people as possible, while having the best technology. So when we looked at PKW now, they were at a stage where they needed to make the next step. They needed to, go for investment. And as we had built up a good relationship with them, it was a great moment for us to sit down and have that conversation. And then, start thinking about basically joining forces. And so that's how this came about. And obviously now the work is going on and we're looking to, join the forces up. And I think we'll be there in, latestly January next year. We'll have a joined up proposal for the market ready.
Fantastic. Well, as I said earlier, very, very exciting times. You're celebrating your first anniversary with that, including that, acquisition, and obviously, as we said, Manheim in the UK with its centenary celebrations. And I think that history of innovation, entrepreneurial approach, definitely being able to be flexible is something that we've both observed and will continue to as we go forward. So, Sebastian, thank you again so much for your time. Just before we close, what's next for the businesses? I know it's hard to predict, as you said, with everything we're going through as Europe and across the world at the moment. But what's your view of both RMS and Manheim Express in terms of future growth and what this year brings?
Yeah, I think the pipeline in RMS is promisingly full. We had very, very big conversations, and matter of fact, this week actually we have 2 more sessions at very, very advanced stages with key European customers. That's multiple solutions. That's again nine markets for one customer, 4 markets for another. We've actually even have one customer that tells us in July you'll get green light most likely from us for 9 markets, and they're beyond. We might take you as far as 45 markets across the world. So, wow. On the other side, from an RMS perspective, there is still, as I said before, a lot of work now in terms of the product team, the technology itself, the release cycles. So there's a lot of foundational ongoing work to further build out that customer base and make sure that our existing customers are also getting that additional value. So we're delivering a new seller portal for Stellantis in July. We're onboarding Opel for the Stellantis group, which is a 60,000 units market for them. So one of the, as you can imagine, Opel, home market Germany, that's pivotal for them. So there is growth within the existing customers, but there is also external growth, and that's great. That combined with the strength of the enterprise setup, the technology enhancements that are coming, that is absolutely, that's absolutely great. And then from a Manheim Express side of things, it's really all about now bringing together the operations with PKW now and building that strong marketplace that will then give us the foundation to really grow into continental Europe. And with that, transact and build our own future from a wholesale marketplace perspective.
Yeah, no, that's great, and certainly exciting times for Cox Automotive Europe and for you in the role that you're doing. And you referenced it earlier. You know, I see so much evidence of as our global mission is transforming the way the world buys, sells, owns, and uses vehicles. And you know, if anybody listening into this and watching us now doesn't have some clear evidence of that and what we're doing in growing in Europe, then clearly that is evidenced with every conversation we've had. So, Sebastian, thank you so much again. Our time is up, and I know your time is really precious. So, thank you very much for joining me and for our audience as well, who I'm sure would found the content interesting and valuable. And if so, please leave a thumbs up or a like, and that helps other people find it. If there's anything you'd like us to focus on in a future episode, just please drop us a message through social media. We've got Cox Automotive Europe social media. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. So you probably wouldn't struggle to find us, and hopefully that's the case. And thank you for tuning into Fuel Talk. And until next time, stay safe.